You're tuned in to the Keetria Show and listening to SOB, Style of Business, the podcast with your host, Keetria. We aim to highlight the ongoing trek of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the globe, featuring stories that recount their struggles, experiences, and inevitable road to success and self-fulfillment. Welcome to SOB.
This episode is supported by the wonderful creators of Gratitude Plus app, the app that helps you cultivate a daily practice of gratitude. What are you grateful for today? You can download the app now at the App Store or by visiting gratitudeplusapp.com/style of business. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another hot episode of SOB Style of Business, the podcast. Today I have a magnificent guest by the name of Mr. Bruce Guynn, who is a singer-songwriter. We got some goodies on this one. We just had a pre-interview conversation, and it's very insightful because I know a lot of independent artists are adjusting and kind of pivoting and figuring out ways to stay connected with their audiences during this time. And this gentleman has actually made a way for himself, and he is eager to share some ideas and things like that. And not only that, I mean, he's the CEO of New Coast Records. These guys are West Coast based, and he's giving away a lot of free music and efforts to support and really uplift people during this time to where we're having a shelter in place and kind of getting bored and needing some entertainment and things like that. So without further delay, without further ado, I would like to introduce you guys to Bruce Guynn, who is, like I said, the CEO and founder of New Coast Records, and he's also a significantly talented. This guy's been in 5 different continents. He's got different awards and things like that. And he's just a great singer and songwriter and a great guy and a great spirit. So anyway, Bruce, drop that introduction for us and let's roll with the goodies on this one.
Oh, well, hey, thank you so much. That's a fabulous introduction. How nice of you. You're very kind. Well, it's wonderful to be with you, Keetria, and I'm just happy to share, any place we go, I'm willing to go there. So let's chat.
Let's do it. I tell you what, we got a lot of ground to cover. So I guess to give people a quick background and to let them know who you are, let's start with an introduction. Just give us maybe some information on how you got started as a musician, some inspirations and things like that, and then we'll start talking about the Big Rain, the band, the album, and all that other good stuff.
Okay. Well, I started out in music very young. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I heard a Billie Holiday record, and that just changed my life. So there's something about the way that woman sings and the way she does dig music that just grabbed me. And I started singing at a young age after hearing that. And I actually think that because of her influence and just having the opportunity to hear her as a child, drove me to actually want to play piano. We had this old upright piano, so I started banging on it and playing on it. So that was at a young age. And then I did all the normal things the usual things that kids do growing up, playing baseball and all that stuff. But sticking to music here, I always wanted in my heart and soul, I felt like I was supposed to be a singer. And it was just something that stuck with me and drove me throughout my life. And music became a way for me to heal my emotions as a child and as a teenager and through life. And so in the 80s, I decided to get out of the business world in the standard way of doing business. And I decided, well, I'm just going to go for this. I'm just going to write songs, produce my albums, and see what happens. Wow. And I started writing and singing and playing and released an album in 1994 called Sound of Freedom and promoted it myself. I learned some tricks through the independent artists of those days, and I studied people who had been successful at it, and I got a lot of ideas from people, and I said, well, I'm just going to go for this and see what happens. And then I just started, and I just have never stopped since then. And that's kind of how I got into the professional world of music. I was very, I wasn't going to do other people's music in the beginning. I was just going to do my music and see what happened. Yeah. Even though I love so many artists and loved their music and played it. But I just focused on that, and it worked out so far. So up until this point, I've produced 6 full-length albums, countless number of very successful singles on the charts. Had been signed by a couple of record labels along the way, but decided that as an independent artist, I was going to have the freedom to be who I wanted to be as an artist, and I made that decision early on in my life, and I'm glad I stuck with it, because I think it's really important that any artist understands their own process and knows who they are as an artist.
Yeah.
And through the evolution of that, you discover things that you never thought you would ever discover about yourself and other people. And it teaches you so much in so many ways that it's hard to sometimes explain that to people. But it really is a life experience in a different way than it's just let's make it simple. It's a life experience, and your art is the experience of your life and what you gather through it. And it's like if you go into a forest and gather wood to make a fire, you're constantly doing that, and you're expressing that in the world. And then and for me it evolved in phases, and that's pretty much my history. And then I did set up my own record label called New Coast Records. I did have a record label early on in the days called Umbrella Records, and that was my first back in the early '90s. That was my first independent label, but it was my own label. And when I released my first album, we went to stores and we distributed them, and we did all that. We did all the things that a record label did,
yeah,
and all that stuff. But since then, the whole industry has changed. It's completely different than it was when I first started. So I guess I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, no, that is quite the story. And I was curious just to know, like, did you start out as a solo artist? Because I know now that you guys are I think a 4-piece band, is it? When you do your
I started out as a solo artist on my first album project. I live in an area where there's a lot of really good musicians. The Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Cruz area in California. And so I had the opportunity to work with a lot of people. And I decided that I was just going to work with the best musicians in the world I could find. And I was good. And I felt like if I worked with the best people, I would become better at this.
Yeah.
And it's true. If you push yourself to work with people that are really, really good, it can be a little intimidating at times, but if you get past that, you're going to have a lot more success, I think. And you're going to grow as your own artist in your own way. So that was my first pact I made with myself. But how Big Rain got started was back in 1994 through 96. I walked into my fitness center where I would exercise on a regular basis, and I was in there exercising, and I was, doing my thing, and there was this fellow across the room talking to a lady and a woman, and he said, I really could use a singer to, get my stuff together. And I happened to overhear it, and for some reason, I just looked over and said, hey, I sing. And he goes, oh, cool. And we started talking. And it turned out to be one of the greatest partnerships in my lifetime. And I said, well, I'm making this album. Why don't you come over to the studio, check it out, and, give me your thoughts. And he came over, and I said, well, and he says, well, I sing too. And I said, great. I said, well, let's sing some harmony. And so we sang together for about the first 30 seconds. We sang the first couple lines of harmony, and we looked at him and said, this is a keeper. Let's do this, man.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
And it just sounded, it was like, oh my gosh, this is working, and so we just went for it. And his name was Peter Alimo, truly gifted guitarist, wonderful human being, wonderful singer, very creative person. Probably one of the smartest people I ever met in my life. Like, I remembered everything that he ever read.
Yeah.
It scared the hell out of me.
I can imagine. I tell you what, I mean, you guys, go ahead.
If you're when we were on the road, I didn't have to ever be entertained. I just had to ask him a question. Shut up.
I could. Hey, I tell you what, you guys, you have one heck of a sound. I mean, I know you guys. You talk about the crossover. With being like the soulful rock, you have the blues, a little bit of R&B, a little bit of Americana, and then you have the roots. But okay, give me your definition, because I know a little bit about what this is, but I definitely want you to explain, because I know it's more fitting to the sound that you guys create when you're together. The Redwood Coast sound. What is the Redwood Coast sound?
Okay, that has evolved after Peter, because Peter had a stroke back in 2010, and he's not an old guy. This weird thing, and so he had to leave. So then I went back on my own. So now it's Bruce Guynn and Big Rain. And I said, Peter, I can't call it Big Rain because you're not in the band anymore. So just put your name in front of it and keep going, brother. So but thanks for that story. But we talk all the time. Anyway, the sound originated. I believe we worked with a producer by the name of Ray Ruff back in early 2000s, and we got signed to this record label in California, and called Oak Records. But this guy worked with all the big labels over the years, and he was quite the producer. And so we walked in there, and he said, I really like what you guys are doing, great music. You're writing great songs. You got what we need here, so let's do this. He said, we'll make 4 of your songs, and if you're happy, we'll sit down and, do a recording contract and all that. Anyway, so we got into the process of we got through the first 4 songs, and he said, this is great. We were all happy. We said, okay, let's do this. And we made this album, and then when it came to promoting the album, he looked at me and he goes, and he did some really cool things. He took the music that had a lot of crossover appeal, like you just described, and he put it into a package that was produced very, very well. So I learned a lot I learned how to make records from this guy. Let's put it that way. I learned how to make, I knew how to write commercial songs, and that could be successful, but without knowing it, I knew it. But he reinforced the fact that I knew what I was actually doing, and it gave me a lot of confidence. But he also taught me how to produce records.
How to produce,
So I thought forever I can only thank him for that. And so we didn't really have a name for it at the time. We crossed it over into rock, and actually the craziest thing was country stations was playing the music. So I said, but when he looked at me and said, we're going to put you on country stations, I looked at him and said, you're crazy.
Yeah,
what?
Right.
This ain't country, man.
Yeah, it's a totally different sound.
But it worked on those stations too, but it crossed over into adult contemporary and all kinds of different stations. Yeah. So it was a crossover. So, and it wasn't until later I said, well, what did I write? I asked myself this question. I always go back to, okay, where am I coming from? What am I trying to do? Who am I? Why am I doing this? And it's always good to check in with that, because you need to, think about why you're really doing this.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not to get rich, but, it's to create and make music and help people in their lives with the music. That's the whole idea, right? If you're not helping people with something, then why are you doing it? Go. That's just where I'm coming from. But everybody said, you got to call it something, man. You got to call it something. Okay. Well, I asked myself, where did you write all this music? And where do you live? And where did it come from? Well, it came from the Central Coast where I live. My ideas came from here. I have a big redwood trees around my house. I grew up in the redwoods. I said, you know what? I'm going to call it the Redwood Coast Sound, because it was a geographical relationship, but it's also like where I wrote the music. But in a sense, it describes the music because there's a lot of different influences throughout, California and musical, like in other regions, there's a lot of different influences. So I just felt it would take on the character of the person and where they came from. And so I call it the Redwood Coast Sound. And, maybe in the spirit of well, where did Motown get their idea, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. It had to have been influenced some way, right?
Yeah, I mean, Motown did something that was really incredible with music. So, so I don't know. I didn't use that as a kind of an example, but it's a way of kind of describing, we'll probably never be as successful as Motown, but we're having a great time doing it, right?
Well, I tell you what, I beg to differ. I beg to differ, Bruce. I mean, who knows? Because you mentioned something very important, and I definitely feel like it's worth sharing. Is the reason behind why you are doing what you're doing, and I don't know if you realize it or not, but like you're actually giving of yourself. Obviously with the creative process and the music, but then also when you are doing these different things, like as far as I know, you just launched like the tribute series, which is the stay-at-home acoustic series, and then you also are giving away your recent album, which is Ocean of Souls Free. And I'm sure other artists are doing that as well, but I really like the way you have kind of pivoted, because as a performing artist, somebody who has toured all, plenty of continents, and you've done all these different live shows, like how are you adjusting? Like, give us a little rundown of how you are actually pivoting to be able to do what you love, entertain your fans, and not lose your cool, in the process.
Yeah, lose your cool. Yeah. Well, that's a really good thing, because that's now, and I think maybe my story can help other people make that pivot. I just said, well, I got to do something to myself. I said, I can't go out and play shows. I can't book shows. Everything's canceled. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, you can't stop. So I said, well, I have all these people that like the music and want to hear it. So let me just bring it to them in a way that is comfortable for them and comfortable for me. And so I just, I asked myself the question, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to make videos, which I've been wanting to learn how to do. and edit them and put them online. I'm going to get into the internet on a much bigger level, on different levels. I have my Twitter account, I have YouTube, I have, the basic things. I'm going to look and try to learn as much as I can about this online world that we're involved in, because there's a lot that I haven't had the chance to really, really get into because of what you just mentioned, touring and playing and all that, and running a band and doing solo shows and all that stuff. And, working with a small label with a few artists and things like that. So this gave me the opportunity. I looked at it this way. Okay, I have a lot of anxiety like all of us do with all this. Yeah. This is a really hard time for everyone. We're all slightly frustrated. We don't know what to do. So you got to manage that anxiety. Definitely for me to manage anxiety is write music, and do something that, again, I can bring to people and help them through their day. So I said, well, gosh, let's just bring the music to the people so they have something to relax with. If they like the music, maybe it'll put a smile on their face and make their day better as we're going through this process. Now, that was my first gut response to it. Now, next question is, how do I do this? Well, I get online. I force myself to stand here and play acoustic songs and record them and edit them and put them up for people so they can listen to them. Bring them new things, write new songs and put them out there. Just don't go in. I can't go in the studio, and I was right in the process of recording my next album right now in the studio. That's all stopped. So I'm going to do it here at home, and I'm going to keep writing songs. So I collaborated with one of my guys I write songs with. I said, okay, you've got some great lyrics. I'm going to write 3 songs, and we're going to put them up, and we're going to let people hear them. So I did that. And so I started the acoustic stay-at-home series, and I, up to 4 videos, and I just did another one yesterday. I haven't posted yet. And so I just want to give it to people. And then the idea said, I work with a fellow in the UK named Matt Steady, who's another independent artist. And he's just a great guy, and I just want to shout out to Matt over there in the UK. He does my internet for my websites, and he's just been really a big help in helping me get my ideas off the ground and getting it out in the world. And he said, hey, he said, I did this. I decided to give my fans my music and give them something at home to do. And I said, man, that is fantastic. I've been looking for a way to do that. I said, but, you got all the technical skills, and it would take me 2 or 3 days to get that thing up and going. You can do it quick. And he said, don't worry, buddy. We're in this together. I'll help you do it. So we got that online, and I said, let's just give everybody the Ocean of Souls album free so they have some entertainment while they're at home. And then I'll create some other things along the way to go along with it. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been focusing all my energy into that. And it's forced me to learn a lot in a short period of time. So I've taken a cram course on a lot of these things. But, if you put your mind to something and, you stay focused on it, you can learn how to do all this stuff. And so that's what I would suggest for any independent artist. Ask yourself, you know what you can do, you know what you can do well, and you know what you can't do well.
Yeah.
But, even though you can't do it well today, doesn't mean you can't do it well tomorrow without work, with not work. If you work on it, you can do it. Suddenly it becomes second nature to you, right? So
that's true. Absolutely true.
So I push myself into those areas. So I think it's pretty much a simple equation. You just have, of course, you have to be able to have a computer and have technology, and available. And so it would be harder for someone who doesn't have that, connection,
to put it together. Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have that connection with the world. So.
Yeah, no, and you go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Bruce. You go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think I pretty much explained. But it is just asking yourself that question and waiting for the answer and then acting on it. Act on the answer. And you might make a few mistakes along the way, but believe me, what you're going to accomplish along the way is going to really outweigh those 1 or 2 mistakes you made.
Yeah, so, I definitely agree.
So go for it.
Love that. That's some wonderful encouragement for the artist and anybody really who's kind of not able to get out and perform and to make a living and do the things that they enjoy, especially when it comes to the creative plane. And Bruce, before we wrap up, you have a quote that, I know that you, especially for like the stay-at-home series, and I know that you dedicate a lot of what you do to like the people that are on the front lines, the healthcare workers and those people who, I guess maybe what we call them maybe the essential needs people that are out in the environment working and just trying to encourage and uplift them. But you have this quote, which is, music is healthcare for the mind and body. Now that, I love that. I love that.
It's true. It's, for me, it's true. I don't know if it's true. It's not true for everyone, but for me, it's true. It's in the sense, it really is healthcare for the mind and body, because it's gotten me through. I believe music has gotten me through my whole life. There's 2 things that get you through life. Well, for me, 3 things, I guess: baseball, music, and love.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, it's a good set. Yeah, take it.
If they're going to bring anything back through this terrible time, then just go play baseball in a stadium with no one there. I'll be happy. I'll watch.
Oh my goodness, yep.
But
that's perfect.
So it's like as an artist, you just have to, I think for me as an artist, and I'll just kind of sum it up this way. If you're going to for me, if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to make music, it's got to help people.
Yeah.
And you can help people with music in so many ways, because it allows them to get in touch with so many different levels of their being, emotionally and intellectually, that other things really just don't seem to do in a lot of ways, In that moment in time, like when you're hearing a song, in that moment in time, you have an understanding of what's going on, whether you know it or not, if you know what I'm saying, because you're opening up on so many different levels. And in that moment, if you can capture that moment,
exactly, yeah,
and put that in real life, and put that into action, and put that into message, then it can be pretty powerful. So.
Yeah, love that. Well, this is great. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed speaking to Bruce Guynn. This is perfect. Bruce, we appreciate you and we love your spirit, and definitely, hopefully, we can have you back on sometime in the future. Before we wrap up, Bruce, go ahead and drop your website address. Make sure you leave your social media handles, and if anybody wants to connect, let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, okay. So you want me to send you a link?
But yeah, you could. Yeah, definitely. You can. I think I have your. I have that information via email. But just if you want to leave your website address, so the listeners, like anybody on the that is listening.
So yeah. So there's two websites, but I'm going to just direct you to my website. That's bruceguynn.com. BruceGuynn.com. And if it's hard for people to remember that, just think of bigrain.net, one word.
Big Rain.
Bigrain.net.
Perfect.
BIGRAIN.net.
All right. Sounds good. And social media handles and anything else you'd like to leave?
Just, everybody just hang in there. If you feel anxiety, just a good way to manage it is take a big breath and think about how you could be creative today if you're an independent artist, and act on it. And, just get busy on stuff. And, even if it doesn't feel like it's working out at the moment, stick with it, and you'll come up with something that you'll be proud of.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bruce. We appreciate you taking time to speak with us. Look forward to having you back.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for reaching out. And it's been wonderful talking with you, and, really very kind of you to share the story. And I hope we help other people along the way as well. So everyone take care, and thank you so much, Keetria.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on SOB. We hope this episode has been resourceful. If you'd like to check out the latest articles or follow Keetria's website updates, just log on to Keetria.com or follow her on Twitter at KEETRIA.